Well, I really hope this video isn't showing up on LinkedIn sideways because my device is acting a little funny. You know, the challenge sometimes with communicating is what you expected to say, what you expected to happen. The way you meant to present it is not necessarily the way it was received. And sometimes that's because your devices or your technologies don't quite jive with what you intended, and sometimes it's because your culture doesn't quite jive with what you intended.
Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I had a great dinner last night with some friends that we invited, and it started as just an idea to introduce two couples that we've known, since less than 6 months. I mean, one of them I met in early January, and the other couple we met around Thanksgiving. And it just seemed like there was so much consistency in the fabric of who they were that bringing them together only made sense, but they didn't know each other. And they didn't run in the same circles. The only common ground between them until they met each other was, my wife and I. But once they met, they agreed with me that it's like they're cut from the same piece of fabric. They just never knew it. It's pretty comical. But one of the things that also happened in the planning of this dinner, just a get-together, just to get to know each other, was I run into another young couple. I've only known him for 2 weeks, and I met her yesterday for about 15 minutes and invited them to join us at the same dinner. And as we all sat down to talk about just getting to know each other, everybody went around the table and kind of told their story. What do they do for a living? How did they get to where they are? Tell us a little bit about yourselves. And there were some common markers that I thought were absolutely fascinating. That was that they'd all had challenges. They'd all had big failure moments in their life, and they've all had great successes in their life. They've all had learning moments that we look back on and go, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had not had to go through that. But see, in that conversation is where we found the common ground, besides me being that I knew all of them. And that common ground was that persistence and that consistency and that stick-to-itiveness that said, I'm just going to fight through this. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. And although we come from significantly different backgrounds and different cultures and different races and different parts of the world, coming together, we found a very serious common ground. Now, yesterday I talked about the power of community. Community meaning we have a singular purpose, or we have a singular vision, or we have a singular geography, and that's what causes us to come together. Maybe it's your HOA in your local neighborhood, or maybe it's a position of faith that you hold, or a particular religion, or a particular group, like the group I met with the night before. That was the John Maxwell group. Well, our common ground, even though we're scattered from all over the world, our common ground is our affinity for John Maxwell leadership. His style of leadership, his teaching of leadership, and this organization. Well, last night that didn't exist. There was nobody at that table that is part of the John Maxwell team. And only one of the couples goes to our church. And none of them live in our neighborhood. And they're all different races. So what is the common ground? What is the community in that? And it was faith and persistence. See, here's what I find when I travel abroad, whether it's to Cuba or to Brazil or to the Congo, when I have a chance to have conversations with people, the racial differences, the political differences, the international differences, the patriotic differences, many of those things begin to just drift away when we get back to the core issues of what makes us human, what makes us successful, and what causes us to fail, where we find our greatest joys and where we face our greatest fears. Those are common. They're common all over the world. Our fears of missing out, our fears of failure, our fears of leaving this earth and not being significant, our fears of war and famine and disease, those are common. They're common all over the globe. But what I find so often is that people build small teams to accomplish their business, or they build small teams to accomplish their vision. And their vision doesn't expand beyond their own little culture. They don't look for the diversity that says, I know nothing about you, we have nothing in common, as far as our backgrounds, our history, our jobs, our careers, where we grew up. But we have this one goal in common. We have this one vision in common. And around that table last night, as we all began to talk, what we found was we've all struggled with divorce. We've all struggled with raising kids. Now, I've never been divorced, but my parents were, and my wife was before I met her, and her parents were. And so we have generations of divorce in our family. Our 25-year marriage is almost the longest. I think there was a 35 and a 28 ahead of us. But we expect to break all of the records in our family for the longest marriage. 25 years is not a bad thing, but we still got a long way to go. But divorce and all of the bad things that come with that had plagued our marriage. And everybody at our table had experienced that in one way or another. We've seen what it means to fight through to save a marriage. And so that became the common thread and the common ground and the common vision, that as diverse as our backgrounds and our educations and our cultures were, we all wanted to see a fight for change for marriages. I want to challenge you as a leader. Do you seek out people, even as diverse as they may be, as different from you as they may be, because you have a common goal? Have you established a purpose for your life to say, that's what I'm really about. That's the difference I really want to make. That's the change I want to see in this world. And then found people who are on the same journey, people whose heart is so big that they faced unbelievable odds and still fought forward for that same goal. Because here's what I know. The synergy that comes from walking in the same direction with different vocations, with different skills, with different talents and gifts and abilities. You become a force working together to do something that none of you alone could do. You've heard me say it before. I love John Maxwell's quote. If your vision can be done by you alone, your vision isn't big enough. If your dream only requires you to do it, your dream isn't big enough. But sometimes you got to take that idea out. I also heard this phrase from John Maxwell. Take that idea out and take it for a walk. Like when you walk your dog through the park and everybody looks at it and says, oh, what a cute dog. And they want to pet your dog. And they want to know your dog. And they want your dog to sniff their hand. And when your idea can go to the park and people go, that's a great idea. I love your dog. I love your idea. I want to know more about it. Now you've got something that's got legs, so to speak. You've got an idea that other people can come around and be a part of, and your dream and your vision will begin to grow synergistically around people who have a very similar dream. There's a video, and I think it's for Facebook groups. It's a commercial that runs from time to time, and it's a guy who shows up at the park with his dachshund. Or no, it's a beagle. Shows up at the park with his beagle, and nobody in the park wants to play with his beagle. They're all, either little tiny purse dogs or they're big, giant, fur mounds that are, running all over the place and chasing balls, and his little beagle can't keep up. But he gets on the groups and he finds a group of people who all have beagles, and they're at the beach. And so now he has his beagle at the beach, and he's in the right group, and he's found people who have a shared common vision. Well, whether it's a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or just gathering people around your neighborhood or putting out a tweet to say, hey, who wants to join me in this accomplishment? Don't try to take all the glory for yourself or the credit for yourself. Find someone who will share the burden with you, who has the same goal in mind, and I'll promise you, you'll go further. If the dream is just big enough for you, it's not big enough. Stretch yourself. Collaborate with a team of people across cultures. Find all the diversity that you can. Gather people around you with absolutely nothing in common in the past, just one common vision or goal for the future. And you're going to find a whole lot of energy and synergy behind your dream. I'm J Loren Norris for Leading Leaders Podcast on Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.